नारायणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of great master Sri Ramakrishna. Originally it is Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga in Bengali. We will go back a little to yesterday's reading and then proceed forward. Now we shall first, all of us, enter into Kamarpukur. We will come to Kamarpukur. The scene there is the Chitanath Paine's and Durga Das Paine's houses. We see that one day Durga Das was bragging thus before a relative. And this young boy, Gadadhar, of 12, came there. On hearing him, the boy said, "Can woman be protected by parda?" Parda means, you all know, most of you, they would always keep the women folk inside the house. Even if there would be any program or function, there would be a screen-like thing. The women will be separated. The men have to sit separate, women inside that screen. So they would not be allowed to come and mix freely with the men folk. So that system was parda. I think this system was originally not there in Indian society. It was introduced after the invasion of the Muslims, Islamic invasion on India. Now, Gadadhar is asking, can women be protected by parda? They can be protected only through good moral training and devotion to God. Now, Gadadhar also proceeded, that small boy told, I can see everyone and know everything of the inner apartments of your house if I want to. At this, Durga Das became even more boastful and said, well, my lad, let me see how you do it. Very well, said Gadadhar, we shall see, accepting the challenge, and went away. Some time later, one afternoon, without a word to anyone, this young boy of 12, Gadadhar, disguised himself as a poor weaver woman, putting on a coarse, dirty sari and, among other ornaments, a bangle of silver beads on his wrist. Then he came just before dusk to the house of Durga Das from the direction of the market. So the drama is well prepared. He has to now come from the direction of the market because he's a weaver woman now. Exactly, he's wearing all the kinds of ornaments as the weaver woman does, and a old coarse sari also. Dress is very similar to them. So he has dressed himself in such a way, such a perfect way. Then he came just before dusk to the house of Durga Das from the direction of the market, with a basket under his arm and a veil covering his face. Durga Das was then sitting with some friends in a parlor of his house. Gadadhar introduced himself as a weaver woman who had come to the market for selling yarn, but had the misfortune to be left behind by her companions. She therefore begged for shelter for the night. Durga Das made enquiries about her and, satisfied with her replies, said, very well, go to the woman in the inner apartment and ask them to take you in. Now, Durga Das was also not a dullard. He questioned. So he took care of everything. But the reply of Gadadhar, that young boy, was so perfect that he couldn't understand that it was not a weaver woman, but Gadadhar. Durgadas made enquiries about her and, satisfied with her replies, said, "Very well, go to the woman in the inner apartment and ask them to take you in." Gadadhar bowed in gratitude and went to the inner apartment. He repeated his story to the woman and amused them with his gossip. Seeing her so young and pleased with her manners, with the sweet words, the woman allowed her to stay with them. Then they pointed out a place for her to rest and gave her some refreshments consisting of parched rice and parched paddy husked and sweetened. Now you can see olden days, whatever there might be, the Parda system due to the invasion of the Islamic rulers and Islamic invaders, but the society still maintained its charity and other good attitudes. A strange, unknown woman taken to the house, and also when she came, arrangement was done for her to take rest in the house. Then even they are giving all the refreshments and eatables, making everything comfortable. So you can see the mannerisms and the nature of the society during that period. Though with all the things, the helping nature, so serving the guests, all these were in abundance in Indian society and Hindu society. Gadadhar sat in the allocated place, and while he was eating that refreshment parched rice, observed very minutely every room and each of the women. Not only did he hear the conversation they were having, but took part in it, and sometimes even put some questions. The whole evening was spent in this way. As Gadadhar now had not returned home, though it was very late, Chandramani Devi sent the elder brother of Ramakrishna, Rameshwar, in search of him to the trader's quarters where she knew he often went. Rameshwar went first to Sitanath's house, but was told that the boy was not there. Then, coming near the house of Durgadas, he loudly called him by his name. He was sure that Gadadhar would not be in Durgadas' house because Durgadas would not allow anybody to go into the inner apartment. So, to search and find out, he started to shout or proclaim in a loud voice, loudly called Gadadhar's name. When Gadadhar heard his brother's voice, he knew it was very late. He shouted back from the inner apartment, "I'm coming, brother," and ran out to meet Rameshwar. It was then that the truth dawned on Durgadas. At first, he was a little embarrassed and felt annoyed at the thought that Gadadhar should have befooled him and his family. But the next moment, he began to laugh, seeing how well the boy had played his part. When they heard of the incident the next day, Sitanath and other relatives of Durgadas were glad that Gadadhar had dealt a blow to his conceit. Henceforward, the women of Durgadas' family also began to go to Sitanath's house whenever Gadadhar was there. The women of Sitanath's family and of the traders' quarters became so fond of Gadadhar that they would send for him if they did not see him for a few days. The boy sometimes went into ecstasy while reading or singing at Sitanath's house. So you can see at this young age, I described in the 2 or 3 classes that in yoga, what is this ecstasy, the concentration of the mind, when you focus your mind on something, how you get absorbed in that. So now each time you would be singing the names of gods and goddesses, thinking of God, telling, reading or singing at Sitanath's house. So he used to go into ecstasy, that bhava samadhi. And when they saw this, the woman's devotion for him knew no bounds. Many of them, we are told, worshipped the boy when he was in ecstasy as an embodiment of Sri Gauranga, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Vaishnavas in Bengal, especially the Gaudiya Sampradaya, in Assam, Bengal, Orissa, and other places, they revere Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an avatar Purusha. So they follow that great Guru or great Acharya or great Avatara, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in that area. Now, if you come to Bihar, if you come to Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and other places, there our great Goswami Tulsidas, he is revered as a great Acharya, and his book, we all also follow here in South Africa, Tulsi Ramayana or Ramcharitmanas. Likewise, in those parts, that is especially Bengal, Orissa, then Assam, Manipur, there they follow Gauranga or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these Vaishnavas there in Kamarpukur, they thought Gadadhar was none other than Gauranga, embodiment of Gauranga or Sri Krishna. They all revered Krishna very much. So they thought this boy was none other than Sri Krishna. Now, these people, they had a gold flute and various costumes of male and female character, specially made for Gadadhar, because he used to do these impersonations, he used to wear different attire while he used to sing and also play the dramas. So they made special attire, special dresses, golden flute. Suppose he used to wear the dress of Krishna while playing the part of Krishna or Rama or anything which would come there in the scriptures. That attire would be made just specially for Gadadhar, because he would play the role so well. So they had a gold flute and various costumes of male and female characters made for Gadadhar for his use during impersonations. From time to time, we had the opportunity of hearing some of these women speak of the influence that the many-sided Gadadhar exerted over them. Now, the direct disciples, especially Shardanandaji Maharaj and others, used to visit Kamarpukur. Later on, after Sri Ramakrishna's Mahasamadhi, they used to go there to Kamarpukur, and they did a lot of research. All the people who lived with Gadadhar, the childhood friends, they were all alive in Kamarpukur after Ramakrishna gave up his body in Mahasamadhi in his age of 50. So he lived for 50 years. So after that, they did a lot of research in Kamarpukur, they found those people, they talked to them, they collected all the facts of that period, they did a lot of research. Shardanandaji Maharaj did a lot of research going to Kamarpukur and finding out everything in detail. So we can see how Shardanandaji Maharaj is making those research about Sri Ramakrishna. Now Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, from time to time, we had the opportunity of hearing some of these women speak of the influence that the many-sided Gadadhar exerted over them. When some of us, including Swami Ramakrishnananda, Shishibhushan Chakravarti in his pre-monastic name, so now Ramakrishnananda and Shardanandaji Maharaj went to Kamarpukur in 1893. We met Sitanath Paine's daughter, Rukmini, who was then about 60 years old. The reader will have a good idea of Gadadhar's influence when we relate what she told us. Pointing to the north, Rukmini said, "Our old house stands yonder. It is now in a dilapidated condition, since there is hardly any one of us left. But when I was 17 or 18, it was the home of a prosperous family. Sitanath Paine was my father, and we were 17 or 18 sisters and cousins together, including the daughters of my father's younger brothers. Although there were slight differences in our ages, We were all grown up girls at that time. Gadadhar used to play with us from his childhood, and we were great friends. Though he was a big boy then, he continued coming to our house even when we were no longer children. He had free access to our inner apartments. Father loved him very much as the Lord himself. He looked upon him as his chosen deity and had great devotion and respect for him. But some of our neighbors objected to this, saying, there are so many grown up girls in your house, and Gadadhar is now a big boy. Why do you allow him still to enter your inner apartment? So our father used to reply, don't worry, I know Gadadhar, who he is. I know him very well, and they would not dare to say anything more. Ah, how many stories from the Puranas, the scriptures Gadadhar used to tell us, and what fun we had. We used to attend to our household work while listening to those stories almost every day. How can I, with one tongue, express the great joy we all felt when he was with us? If sometimes he did not come, we would be in anxiety. See, we all generally become anxious for so many different various reasons. But here, people in Kamarpukur, they are becoming anxious if Gadadhar would not come there and sing praises of God and goddesses and tell about the Purana scriptures and speak about God and goddesses, talk about it, used to joke, used to mimic, so many other things. So all the people she's telling that would get anxious, we would be in great anxiety, thinking, was he ill? Why didn't he not come? We had no peace till one of us went to Brahmani. So Chandramani Devi was called Brahmani because she was from the family of Brahmins. So the lady in the family was called Brahmani. So Chandramani Devi, we would go to Chandramani Devi on the pretext of bringing water or doing something else. And we brought news about Gadadhar. Every word of Gadadhar was like nectar to us. When he did not come to our house, we would spend the whole day talking about him. So you can see the Lord now has come as a child. They're all, in a way, meditating, thinking of him. So just like we meditate on the chosen ideal, they're always constantly thinking about Gadadhar and Gadadhar alone, whether he would come, whether he would not come, all the time thought of Gadadhar. Gadadhar's popularity was not confined to the circle of village women only. His many-sided genius and winsome ways brought him to the notice of all people of village, whether men, women, children, old, young. He frequented all the places where the villages, young and old, gathered to hear readings from the scriptures, Puranas, or songs in praise of God. There was great joy whenever and wherever the boy was present. So, whenever and wherever the boy was present, there would be great joy. It was a mart of joy. He experienced joy in himself through ecstasies and used to share that joy with everyone around him. So, that old lady of 60 at that time, when Ramakrishna Anandaji and Sharda Anandaji Maharaj is inquiring and interviewing her about Gadadhar's ways at that time when they were children. So now she's telling there was great joy wherever and whenever the boy was present. For none but he could read so well or expound religious truths with such earnestness. So, can we call Gadadhar a illiterate or uneducated person? Was adept. So nobody could in the village, all highly educated people, highly qualified, they're experts, they're scholars, pundits, but nobody could read or expound the scriptures like Gadadhar at that young age. There was great joy wherever and whenever the boy was present, for none but he could read so well or expound religious truths with such earnestness. So he had no equal in spiritual fervor at the time of singing the glory of God, so much of devotion, and in the power of arousing the spiritual sentiments, bhava. No one had a sweet voice like his. I have compared that with Narendra. Narendra was adept in the science of music. He had trained himself in Hindustani music, the Drupad Anga, that's also the original school of music, which has come from the Vedas directly. Then in Hindustani, the Khyal Paddhati, the Thungri, Tappa, so many other different varieties. He knew about Western music. Then not only that, he knew many percussion instruments like the Bhakavas tabla. He could play tabla 2 or 3 days together continuously. And also he used to play some stringed instruments. So he was very adept in music and he used to sing very well. His voice was very good. And the moment Ramakrishna used to hear his voice and singing, he used to go into deep ecstasy. But Holy Mother and many other people like Master Mahashay and other people used to comment telling that, yes, Narendra's voice was very good. It was the best. But when Ramakrishna started singing, he didn't have any special training, Hindustani or Western or Eastern or anything, classical training. Just by hearing, just by hearing other people there in and around Kamarpuku, Ramakrishna and Gadadhar had learned singing to such an extent that the moment he used to start singing, the whole surrounding would be mesmerized with that beautiful voice and devotion. And many times, Sharda Devi has commented, so Narendra's voice would and singing would, what do you call, it would go into insignificance. It would become pale compared to the voice and devotion and the singing of Ramakrishna. So such beautiful, then you can imagine when he was a young boy, what would be his devotion, his voice and singing. So that's why it would create great joy whenever and wherever the boy was present. He had no equal in spiritual fervor at the time of singing the glory of God and in the power of arousing the spiritual sentiments. No one had a sweet voice like his, nor could anyone dance like him. Ramakrishna also could dance while taking the name of God. On occasions of merriment, he surpassed everyone in his ability to play farcical roles and to imitate all kinds of affectation of men and women. Again, no one could narrate so well new stories or sing new songs befitting on that occasion, on any occasion. So everyone, young and old, became fond of him and eagerly waited his coming. Each evening, they were all waiting for arrival of Gadadhar. Every day, Gadadhar too was happy to meet and entertain the villagers, sometimes in one place, sometimes in another. So, as even at that age, the boy had a sound judgment. Now the interview is over. Now Shardanandaji Maharaj is describing. That was all the description of Rukmini, who was the daughter of Sitanath Paine, who grew up as a child with Gadadhar. Also later on, even when they became older, they were always there with Gadadhar at that time. So she is narrating everything, how Gadadhar used to behave in his childhood at that time, because she has seen everything in detail. So we could see everything now. So now Shardanandaji is describing the child Gadadhar in so many other ways. As even at that age, the boy had a sound judgment. So though he was very young, his judgment was very sound. He could decide things correctly. He had not only good memory power, but a lot of intelligence and wisdom too. Many of the villagers took his advice in the solution of their worldly problems. He could just solve the worldly problems in a trice. The suggestion he used to give would be so nice. Everybody would take, all the villagers took his advice in the solution of their worldly problems too, attracted by his pure character and Seeing that, he went into ecstasy while uttering God's name or singing his praises. Religious minded persons sought his advice in following their own chosen paths of spiritual discipline. So, not only he used to be consulted by the villagers for their worldly problems, but also many sincere devotees, sincere seekers, they used to go to Gadadhar at that young age to get solutions to spiritual problems too. If they had any problems while going forward in spiritual life, they used to consult Gadadhar and get solutions from that. It is said that at that time, Srinivasa Shakari and a few other young men used to worship Gadadhar as an a special manifestation of God. They used to literally, just like image worship or the worship of God, they used to worship Gadadhar, Srinivas Shakari, and other few people who were very devoted and who used to go forward in spiritual life. They knew that Gadadhar, this boy, young boy, was not an ordinary child. He was Avatar Purusha. He was a great soul. So they used to literally worship him as a special manifestation of God. The young boy got the worship. So now only hypocrites and knaves try to avoid him. Why? He would blurt out the truth. He could understand what is their thought. He could read their minds. So as to openly tell the truth, he would tell about their hypocrisy. So only hypocrites and knaves tried to avoid him, since Gadadhar's keen insight pierced through their deceptive exteriors and detected their secret designs. The truthful and outspoken boy sometimes put these persons out of countenance by exposing them before others. Gadadhar's love for fun would also occasionally make him imitate their hypocritical ways and in the presence of others. So the hypocrites, the knaves who want to show off that they are great and they know so many things, they are very religious, they will in the exterior try to act too much to show that they are very religious. Now they want to prove it to the world. If you don't want to prove it to the world, if you want to just please God, you will be natural. But when these hypocrites, they want to prove to the people that they are so devoted and they are so gone forward in spiritual life, they will put up so many acts and feign that they are great. So I have heard, then there was in Bangalore one Harikatakara used to come. So it was the period during when revered Harshanandaji Maharaj and other people were there, young brahmacharis or even in pre-monastic days, they used to come to Bangalore Ashrama when revered Yatishwaranandaji Maharaj was there. So once a Harikatakara was the one who reads the, what you call the scriptures and tell the name of Hari, he was asked to do one Harikatha on Ramakrishna. So that Harikatakara read that books and all those things, and while playing that, telling about Ramakrishna, then he wanted to act in such a way that he started acting that when Ramakrishna used to go into ecstasy, he used to go to ecstasy and show the pose and become as if he was also in ecstasy. And he was very high in spiritual life, in samadhi, deep samadhi. And sometimes he would also fall down. Then Harshanandaji Maharaj, now who is 90 years, and another Krishna Swami, who was 94 when he passed away, we were all in contact with him. They used to make fun and tell that Harikatakara, when in a hypocritical way to show that he has got the samadhi or ecstasy, he used to go there and stand in the pose, just like imitate like Ramakrishna, and he used to also fall down. Then these people, these boys, these young children who were there at that time, they used to comment, see, he's not falling on the mic, he will get hurt. He's very careful to fall on the chair or the soft surface. So when you go to samadhi, how will you know whether you are falling front or back or something? It's very carefully avoiding the mic and other hard surfaces, table and the teapot, and he's falling on the chair or the soft surfaces so that he will not be hurt. So see this hypocritical behavior. So he used to imitate Ramakrishna as if he's going into samadhi and fall down. And these boys used to laugh at that and speak about that. And Harshanandji used to tell this used to happen. So people generally, they have the habit of imitating, and also not only imitating, but in a hypocritical way, trying to show that they have also all these qualities and they are also in samadhis. So Gadadhar's love for fun would also occasionally make him imitate their hypocritical ways, because they have to prove. So they have to do too much. So then it will be very animated. So Gadadhar used to study their hypocritical behavior, and he used to imitate that too. How that person imitates and that person shows off and other things. So he used to imitate their hypocritical ways in the presence of others. Although this made them angry, they could not do anything about it since everybody took his side. Their only safeguard was to appeal to his kind nature, because they knew the boy was always generous to those who appealed to his good sense. So they used to come and plead, Gadadhar, please don't show our ways of hypocritical ways to the villagers. By doing that, we want to do something, get some money or something, and now you are taking away that too. By our hypocritical behavior, we want to show off to the people. Then when they used to plead, then Gadadhar, so when they used to appeal to his kindness, kind nature, so that was the only safeguard. So because they knew that boy was always generous, and those who appealed to his good sense, then he would not do that afterwards. So as mentioned before, Gadadhar continued going to school for some time every day because of his love for boys of his own age. But on his reaching the age of 14 now, his devotion and desire for spiritual contemplation increased to such an extent that he became convinced that he had no use for any bread winning education. So, we all of us are into bread winning education. So, we do not study for the knowledge sake. We do not study to find out the truth behind this universe. See, the science is always behind the truth behind this universe, whether physics or chemistry or anything, biology, this nature. They want to find out the truth. So the scientists are behind truth, everybody, whether the medical professions, the engineers, or anybody for that sake, the scientists, whether you go to commerce in mathematics, they want to find out the truth behind the calculation. So there too, you are seeking truth. In arts, by their poetry and their writings and so many other things, even in the subject of arts, in sculpting or anything for that sake. So they are trying to find out the truth behind this nature, beauty of the nature. So whichever department of education you take up, it is search of truth, isn't it? So, but what do we do? Instead of after getting the knowledge, we are not studying this, getting this knowledge for knowledge sake. We are doing all that thing for bread winning. It's bread winning. So we used to see when we used to be small children, there used to be snake charmers. So they used to come with so many different animals, mungus and the snake, and they used to exhibit those snakes. They used to do some magic. They used to play some music and do that. And then after that, after all that thing is done, they used to collect some money. Then after that, they used to lift up their shirt and show the stomach and beat the stomach and show a papi pet ka sawal hai. So we are all doing this for the sake of breadwinning, to do some, because papi pet means stomach. So that stomach is hungry. You have to feed it always. So for that, we do all these things. So please help us with some money. So after all the show would be done, they used to collect money and then leave on that. So what do we do then? It's the same thing. Every one of us are doing the same thing, nothing else. So I'll give you a beautiful example how every one of us are doing the same thing. This example will clear all our doubts. So let me narrate you one beautiful story of one student and one guru or swami. Now, the swami asked the student, why do you go to college? The student told to study, to get knowledge. Then the Swami asked that student, you enjoy your studies? Student replied, who can enjoy studies? We don't enjoy studies. I have come here to get only a degree to the college, that's all. We don't enjoy studies. We come to the college only to get a degree. Then the Swami asked him, suppose I give you a degree, will you still go to the college? Student immediately replied, certainly not. What kind of degree will you give to me? The Swami told, any degree, whatever you want. Then student asked the Swami, can I get a job with the degree you give? Then when that student asked the Swami, can I get a job with the degree you give to me? Then the Swami replied, make up your mind. Do you need the degree or a job? You are just now telling you are going to the college not for studies, but for a degree. Now you're telling that, can I get a job? So now please make up your mind whether you want degree or a job. Then the student replied, obviously, I want a degree for I need a job. Then the Swami replied, okay, if that is the case, why do you need a degree? You want a job. Come to our ashrama. We work in the villages, in schools. We go to do so many seva activities, service activities. We have so many village activities. We have so many schools and hospitals. We give hampers, we give bursaries. We work among the poor. Just like in South Africa, we go to Lenasia and different other part. We work among the poor people. We go to the destitute house. We go to the orphanages. We do a lot of work. So we have a lot of work to do. We will give you a job. Please come. If you don't want a degree for degree's sake, if you don't want studies for study's sake, for knowledge sake, if you just want a job, we have a lot of work to do. Come, we will give you a job. You have to decide what you want. Do you want a degree or a job? You want a job? Then come, we will give you a lot of work. You can do the job. Now, the question of the student was, when he told, I will give you a job, the student replied, but how much money will I get? The next answer was, how much money will I get if I come to your job? And the Swami replied, do you want a job or do you want money? The student told, I want job to earn money. I want money, so I want job. Then the Swami told, then come straight to the point that you need money. Why all these ostentations that you will go to the college, you have to pay the fees, you don't want knowledge. You want a job, a degree. Then you want a degree for a job. You want job for the money. And why all this beating around the bush? Come straight to the point that you want money. How much money do you want? Asked the Swami to the student. How many millions do you want? Student told, I'm happy if I get 15 million. Will it be okay? The Swami told, okay. Do you want it in rands? Do you want it in dollars? Do you want it in pounds, sterlings? Or do you want it in rupees? Then the student was confused. What is very powerful currency? It is sterling pounds. Until now, it is sterling pounds. So then I want in pounds 15. Okay, then student told, then give me 15 million pounds. Swami, so be it, it is already in your bank account. You can have it. It's in your bank. Student was very happy. It's already in my bank. Can I use it in whatever way I want? Then the Swami replied, you told me that you want money in the bank, but you never told that you'll be using it. That in whatever way you want to use it. Then the student told, what do you want to buy? When the Swami asked him, what do you want to buy? He told, I want to buy a Ferrari. And all the modern gadgets, latest gadgets like phone, iPhone, iPad, and other things. Then the Swami replied, you never said anything about buying anything. You said you wanted just money. So the money is in your bank. Now you are telling you want to buy something out of that. Money is already there, but you cannot buy anything out of it. Now the student told, what is the use of the money if I cannot buy anything? Then the Swami replied, then say that what do you want really? Make up your mind. What do you really want? Then the student replied, I want a car, I want a wonderful house, I want many smart gadgets like phone, iPhone, iPad, and so many other things, etc. Then Swami told, you can have it. Then the student replied, can I drive the car and show off my gadgets, smartphones, and other things to everyone? Then the Swami replied, wait. You never said about driving the car and showing off your smart gadgets. Student looked at the Swami in a peculiar way. Then he asked, of course, I want to drive and show off all these smart gadgets to other people. Then the Swami replied, why do you want to drive the car and show off? Student replied, because I want to enjoy the car. I want to show it to everybody that I'm so rich and I have such good car. I want to enjoy it, enjoy the car. Then the Swami replied, why do you want to enjoy the car? Then the student replied, because I want to be happy. Now the Swami replied, why do you want to be happy? Why do anybody want to be happy? And he had no furthermore answer. It all ended there. All the question and answer session ended there. Why do you want to be happy? And he had no answer for that. See, all of us go to the college. Is it to gain knowledge? Is the knowledge for knowledge sake? No. It is to get a degree. Then why degree for? For the degree's sake? No, for the job's sake. Why do you need job for the job's sake? To do your seva, karma yoga? No, it is for money. Why money? Is it money for money's sake? No, it is to buy things. Then are the things for things' sake? No, but to show off to other people that I have so many things. So come. So finally, the bottom line is the only thing for its own sake is happiness. The only thing for its own sake is happiness. So let us still dwell into that and find out so many other things too. So the bottom line is the only thing for its own sake is happiness. We do contrary things. Now, what an irony of the life. We do contrary things in our life. What is that? You get married, you get happiness. Is it giving happiness? You get married to get happiness, isn't it? Then maybe you are laughing. It's not a joke. I'm asking you seriously. Then you divorce. Why do you divorce? Again, because you want to be happy. I heard when I put this question to somebody that they were telling not to be happy, but to be happier. You want divorce also to be happy. You want to get married also to be happy. Then, and a divorcee wants to marry again to be what? Happy. Look at the irony of life. Everything we do is to be happy. From the womb to the tomb, we are doing all these things to be happy. Whether you are going to a temple, whether you are going to Drakensberg, the mountain, whether you are going to Kruger's Park, whether you are going to any place, you want to be happy only. Do you go to the temple to be miserable? Yeah, you may go to the Kruger's Park or another place, Drakensberg, to a pub or a bar because you are now miserable. So now you realize it is not the things or persons or situations that we want, the common desire is we want happiness. So finally, it comes to happiness. So, what are we searching for? Every one of us, we are searching for happiness. Where do you get that? In truth. And what is that? Real happiness is in truth. And what is that truth? It is God. So, now what are we doing here in this world? See the irony of this world. We are searching and going here. You go into wedlock to be happy. You divorce because you want to be happy. Again, a divorcee want to get happy, he gets remarried. So, what is this contrasting things happening in his life? But everyone wants happiness. Where is happiness? It is within you. It is within God, in realizing God, the highest happiness. So now Gadadhar is telling. So you could now understand your own situation, the irony, the contrast in your own life. So at this young age, Gadadhar, as mentioned before, continued going to school, but for some time every day because of his love for the boys. But on his reaching the age of 14, his devotion and desire for spiritual contemplation increased to such an extent that he became convinced. Now he's saying all these things. He's not continuing the same mistake like us. We are going and searching and we don't get it. And it will never end. The search will never end. But Gadadhar could gauge it, understand it properly. He could fathom the things properly, the reality of the world. He didn't want to commit the same mistake. It is just like the flock of sheep. The sheep are moving, one sheep will fall to the ditch, and all the 100 sheep will go and fall to the ditch. Suppose one sheep doesn't fall into the ditch, then the other sheep will tell, he doesn't belong to our group, sheep class. So you have to segregate him. So everyone has to fall to the ditch. Then only they call him belonging to the sheep flock. So what is the sheepish mentality? All of us are now going, do the same, committing the same mistake. So everyone wants happiness. It is the only thing which we are doing for the sake of happiness, but for not other thing. Happiness for happiness. Other things, job for no job for things for things, no. It's for something else. Finally, it comes to happiness. So now Gadadhar has found out all these things. So through his spiritual contemplation, when it increased, he became convinced that he had no use of any bread-winning education. He didn't want to study for the sake of degree and for the job and for the money. That is bread-winning education. He wanted God. He wanted, why? God for God's sake, not God for, we all want God. We too want God, we can also claim. But why do we want God? To fulfill our desires. If they come to know tomorrow God is not giving you boons, then will you go for God? You will never go. So God is a means to an end. You're shopkeeping with God. You're doing business with God, that's all. I give you this, you give me that. So what do you really want? Do you want God? No. You want joy, you want happiness. And God is happiness personified. You're asking for things, where do you get the joy? So Gadadhar at this small age of 14, he was convinced that he had no use of any bread-winning education of the type imparted at schools and colleges. Even from that time, he felt that his life was meant for a higher purpose and that he would have to direct all energies towards that realization of the truth, realization of God. A faint picture of that goal often arose before his mental vision that he should completely dedicate his life to realize that highest truth, which is real happiness, which is joy. That's why God is called by 3 minimum names: Satchit Ananda, infinite existence, absolute, infinite knowledge or consciousness, absolute, infinite joy or bliss, absolute. So, infinite bliss, that is God. Instead of that, we are searching puny bliss, puny joys in smaller things. But we get into sufferings, we get into miseries. All the life we suffer and suffer and suffer. So Gadadhar didn't want to commit the same mistake. He wanted to get the highest. Even from that time, At the age of 14, he felt that his life was meant for a higher purpose and that he would have to direct all his energies, no wasting, not committing the same mistake like we do. Direct all his energy towards God realization. A faint picture of that goal often arose before his mental vision, but as the details were not then clear in his mind, he was unable to grasp its meaning or understand its purpose. Whenever he was faced with problems of taking a decision on the future trend of his life, the ideal of renunciation and total dependence on God came up before his discriminating mind. His imagination pictured to itself the various symbols and paraphernalia of a life of renunciation. So now when the word renunciation comes, vairagya comes, generally people will get afraid. People are afraid of renunciation, losing the individuality, vairagya and other terms. But if you understand it scientifically, then you will not commit the same mistake. So now if I take up that subject, I think I may digress from my thing and it may take a lot of time. So I will bring in lot of materials about renunciation, what is vairagya, how scientific it is. And I will try to explain in the next class. I will bring all those things and explain to you, not completely out of the subject, into the subject, just like I told about samadhi and all other things. In the beginning a little, then in the end a little, like the 2 or 3 classes, I will take over what is renunciation, because we're getting that subject. So the term renunciation may make you afraid of. What is that? Giving up everything? No, it's not giving up everything. So I will take you through that. Lot of things are there about what is renunciation, what is vairagya. And if it is told simply in a superstitious way, you will not understand. So scientifically, logically, analytically. So we will go through that through the words of Swami Vivekananda in so many different ways. Now we'll concentrate on our subject. What is that? Now he wanted to divert all his energy for that highest goal, that is find out the truth, God realization. Whenever he was faced with problem of taking a decision on the future trend of his life, the ideal of renunciation and total dependence of God, that is vairagya, renunciation, came up before his discriminating mind. What is that discrimination? It is viveka. So viveka, vairagya are all the great character, good qualities which we have to gain. That's why on on Tuesday evening we do that. We discuss on Viveka Chudamani. Viveka is crest jewel of discrimination. So between the real and the unreal, between the righteous and the unrighteous. So discriminating between that. So we discuss on that. We go into the details. So we need vairagya. We need viveka, that is discrimination. So his imagination pictured to itself in various symbols and paraphernalia of life of renunciation, the ochre robe. So the ochre robe is just a symbol of renunciation. Just if you wear ochre robe, you will not get that vairagya and viveka. You have to get that quality inside. That is more important. The external robe, ochre robe, is just a symbol, an indication. But the internal quality is very, very important. Together to protect ourselves, the ochre robe is also necessary. So his imagination pictured to itself the various symbols and paraphernalia of life of renunciation. The ochre robe, the sacred fire, alms gathering, and wandering from place to place without any attachment. But the very next moment, his loving heart reminded him of the condition of his mother. He loved his mother so much. So how can he go away, giving up everything that will pain his mother? He doesn't want to pain his mother in any way. He loved his mother so much, intensely, the devotion to mother. His loving heart reminded him of the condition of his mother, brothers, and others of the family, and made him give up the desire to tread that path. Instead, it urged him. So now that ambiguity, the conflict in the mind is going on. Shall I renounce everything and just jump into God realization? or just like my father. Instead, it urged him to help them as best as he could by remaining in the world, trusting God, even as his father had done. So, which path should I take? Should give up everything and plunge in God realization, or to be in the family, helping everybody, just like his father did, live a very religious life, but also try to realize God here itself? Which path should I take? So the mind was wobbling between that, just like his father had done. What shall I take that path, since his head and his heart thus pointed in opposite direction? He waited for God's guidance, depending entirely on what their family deity Raghuvira Ramachandra might ordain. For with his heart full of love for that deity, the boy had always looked upon him as absolutely his own. That is what how we have to think of our Ishtadevata. He is not, the Lord is not somebody who is sitting in the cloud somewhere far off, sitting in Vaikuntha or Kailasa. No, he's your own. He's in your heart. He's more nearer to than your body, your mind. He's more nearer to your parents or anybody. He's your own. He's the real father and mother. So that is very important. So he waited for God's guidance. His heart full of love for the deity Raghuvira, the boy had always looked upon him as absolutely his own. Confident, therefore, that Raghuvira would solve his problems at the proper time. He set his mind at rest. He just resigned to the will of the Lord. Whenever there was a conflict between his head and heart, it was his heart that always won. And he now did everything under the influence of his heart. He told, let me give it up to Raghuvira. I will go on doing my best to realize God in the family. I will not give up my mother and other things, just go away. But I'll be here, depending completely on how God will guide me. The Lord himself will take care of me because everything is taken care of by the Lord. Let me resign to the Lord, surrender to Raghuvira, my family deity, and then do whatever is to be done, my duty. So at this time, a new feeling welled up now and then in Gadadhar's pure heart. A new feeling welled up in Gadadhar's pure heart, so full of rare sympathy. There existed such an intimate relationship between him and the people of village that he looked upon them as his dear friends and shared fully their joys and sorrows. He used to share their joys and sorrows. So he looked upon all the villages, anybody with intimate relationship between him and the people of village. He looked upon them as his dear friends and shared fully their joys and sorrows. Therefore, as soon as the idea of renouncing the world arose in his mind, his heart reminded him of those simple hearted and loving villagers and of their implicit trust in him. He knew his path was to conduct his own life in such a way that by following him as a model, they might realize high ideals and transform their present relationship into one of spiritual kinship. The boy's heart, free from the slightest taint of selfishness, spoke to him. It is selfish to renounce the world only for your own salvation. Do something that will be for the good of others also. Now you can see the motto given by Swami Vivekananda was not the motto given by Swami Vivekananda. In reality, Ramakrishna used to guide Vivekananda to build this organization, Ramakrishna Sangha. Every inch and detail, every planning. In the last days, Ramakrishna used to give to Narendra. And that's what now we see whatever Ramakrishna order, the Sangha, all the rules and regulation, what is to be done, is modulated by none other than Ramakrishna himself, given to Narendra, and Narendra has just given it to us. We think Narendra has given, or Swami Vivekananda has given. But in reality, you can see that in his life. What is that? What is the motto of Ramakrishna mission? Atmano mokshartam jagat hitaya cha. For the sake of one's own salvation. How do you get one's own salvation? Go run away? No, be in the society and serve the society. by serving the society, by serving all the living beings, you should strive for Atmano Mokshartam, for your own, one's own salvation. It is not and. Sure means together here, together with, for the sake of salvation. You do that by serving the society, being in the society and serving the society. That is the motto. Atmano Mokshartam Jagat Hitaya Cha. Jagat Hita, the welfare of the world, the welfare of this society, welfare of the country, welfare of all the living beings. What do you mean by country, or what do you mean by the world? It's the living beings, it's the men, it's the women, it's the human beings who are living here. Jagat, that is Jagat. So for their welfare, by thinking of them, by working for their welfare, you get your salvation. You think of getting your salvation. Not that you should give up the higher ideal of realizing God. At the same time, you should, in the name of Vairagya, you should not just throw away everything to the winds about serving the society and thinking of other people. So it should be so harmoniously combined that you will get the salvation, you will get the highest God realization by seeing in God in every living being of this world and serving them. Now, Ramakrishna is practicing it from his childhood here and is given that highest truth to us to practice. Atmano Mokshartam Jagathitaya Cha. You can see that in the seed form here in the life of this young child of 14, Gadadhar is showing us. What is that? So he was feeling for the villagers. He thought they were very close, that intimate relationship between him and the people of the village, that he looked upon them as their dear favorite and shared friends and shared fully their joys and sorrows. Therefore, as soon as the idea of renunciating the world arose in his mind, his heart reminded him of those simple-hearted and loving villagers and of their implicit trust in him. He knew his path was to conduct his own life in such a way that following him as a model, they might realize high ideals and transform their present relationship into one of spiritual kinship. Yes, now their thought is worldly, but slowly you have to transform them from this present relationship into that of spiritual kinship. The boy's heart, free from slight taint of selfishness, spoke to him. It is selfish. It is selfish to renounce the world only for your salvation. Do something that will be for the good of others also. Do something that will be for the good of others also. Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya. That is what Lord Krishna is given in Mahabharata. That's what we'll be always singing in the beginning or in the end of our satsang. Sarvesham swastit bhavatu. Sarve bhavantu sukinaha. Let all be happy. Let all the afflictions of everybody go away. Everyone should be happy. You should find happiness in others. That idea you can see now cropping up in a seed form or a full-fledged form in this 14-year-old boy. He's asking himself, he's telling himself, it is selfish to renounce the world only for your own salvation. Do something that will be for the good of others also. Now going forward, let us see. But so far as his study at the school and later at the Sanskrit school was concerned, Gadadhar's head and heart were in full agreement. Even then, he did not leave the school altogether because he knew his friends would miss him badly. For all the boys of his own age, Gaya, Vishnu and others, there were so many other best friends of Ramakrishna at that time, Gadadhar, Gaya, Vishnu and others loved him dearly and looked upon him as their leader because of their great intelligence and because of his great intelligence and courage. Gadadhar, however, found at last a favorable opportunity to leave the school. One day, some friends who knew his dramatic talent proposed that they would form a party of Yatra players, a drama group, a troupe of drama players, and requested him to take charge of their training. Gadadhar agreed. But knowing that their guardians would raise objections, the boys were at first worried about a suitable place where they could undergo that training. Clever Gadadhar finally selected Manikraja's mango group. In the beginning, we saw that Manikraja's house was a big landlord in Bursubo, and his father used to take him there. Father used to take him to Manikraja's house, and there he used to see Manikraja, and he was very happy, and his family members would request Shudaram to bring that little boy to their house. So now, 4 or 5 kilometers away, this Manikraja's house, he had a very big mango grove. So no people would be there. It is away from the village, nobody would be there. So now again, Gadadhar hit upon a plan. Now he will take all his troupe of drama, the children who are interested in making a troupe of playing the roles of gods and goddesses and all other things. He knew everything by heart, in memory. Into memory, he had everything memorized it. So he took all of them there to that mango grove, and they used to practice. They had made a the drama troupe there. So now, as I told you in the earlier classes too, that Manikraja's house, the Manikraja's mango grove, Amgach, everything has been now acquired by the Ramakrishna ashram. It has come to the Ramakrishna ashram. There was no mango trees there at all, but they used to call Manikraja's mango grove. But now the order has taken it, and they will develop it as it was earlier. So now this Gadadhar, he agreed for that, making a troupe of yatra players, that is drama troupe. But knowing that their guardians would raise objections, the boys were at first worried about a suitable place where they could undergo that training. Clever Gadadhar finally selected this Manikraja's mango grove, and it was settled that every day some of them should absent themselves from the school and meet there at the appointed time. So nowadays we see the boys and students escaping, bunking classes, running to so many other learning bad habits, going to the cinema, going to the pubs and other things, and spoil their ways. But on the contrary, here, Gadadhar and his friends are escaping from the classes only to think of God, to learn more about God, and practice the play of God and other things. This plan was immediately put into effect. Under Gadadhar's training, the boys learned by heart their own parts and songs, and the mango grove became the happy scene of the performance of plays depicting the lives of Ramachandra and Sri Krishna and so many other gods and goddesses. So they used to play drama, they used to learn different roles, songs, the dialogues. Under Gadadhar's training, the boys learned by heart their own parts and songs, and the mango grove became the happy scene of performance of plays depicting the lives of Sri Ramachandra and Sri Krishna. All the details of each performance had to be arranged by Gadadhar himself. He was the director. Like, with the aid of his own imagination, and he himself had to act the parts of the principal characters. The boys, however, were very happy to find their little group working in perfect harmony. It is said that from time to time, Gadadhar went into ecstasy during these performances. So how lucky were those students who were getting trained by Gadadhar himself, and to see him go into ecstasy, be in his company for so many days. Is it an ordinary thing? So that's why we all of us have taken the age of 14 years, and now we are all in Kamarpukur enjoying this. All through we are in the company of Gadadhar, the satsanga of Gadadhar. The boy's skill in painting could not now find much opportunity for improvement, since most of his time was spent either in religious singing or in enacting plays. So that boy's skill, that wonderful skill, I told you, master degrees of Ramakrishna, sculpting, painting, now drama, directing, producing. There's National School of Dramatics also, drama also. Many people join there and get degrees and master degrees and PhDs there, writing drama. It's in the art section. So now he's becoming master in that. He's already master in, get the skill of painting and sculpting and making images through clay. So Now that opportunity is lessened because he's more concentrating on this, enacting plays, religious singing. But one day, on a visit to his younger sister Sarvamangala at Gaurhati, now at this place, Sarvamangala's place in Gaurhati, there is one ashrama where Ramakrishna used to visit her house frequently to see her sister Sarvamangala. So now in Gaurhati also we have an ashrama. He saw her cheerfully serving her husband. When he went to meet her youngest sister Sarvamangala at Gaurhati, he saw that Sarvamangala cheerfully serving her husband. Shortly afterwards, he painted a picture showing the couple in that happy mood. And all the members of the family were surprised to see how lifelike the painting was. Immediately of seeing that a sister was serving the husband joyfully, he got an idea. Immediately he painted that. Gadadhar, at this age of 14, he painted that. Shortly afterwards, he painted a picture showing the couple in that happy mood. And all the members of the family were surprised to see how life, it was just like original, how lifelike the painting was. So he was expert in painting. See the education, master degrees. I'm giving one by, you can note it down. Make a list of all the master degrees. You think that Ramakrishna is uneducated? See the master degrees he is having. See the expertise in painting, expertise in the dramatics, expertise in mimicry, making jokes, telling stories. A very good lecturer, he is master in lecturing. So make all this list one by one. Then we will see how many master degrees Ramakrishna had at this small age and also afterwards. So now Gadadhar, however, became very competent in modeling images of gods and goddesses, modeling the images too, making the images through clay. His religious learning led him to do this often, and he and his friends would then worship those images. Not only he used to make images, he used to worship, he and his friends used to worship those images in the manner prescribed in the scriptures, just like in the worship given in the scriptures, Agama Shastras and other things. He used to not only make beautiful images of gods and goddesses, all his friends would join together and worship that images too. Gadadhar became very competent in modeling images of gods and goddesses. His religious leanings led him to do this often, and he and his friends would then worship those images in the manner prescribed in the scriptures. After he left school, Gadadhar followed the dictates of his heart by engaging himself in these activities. Besides helping, but he would never forget this. That was the first prime thing. What is that? Helping mother? Seeing the divine manifestation in her mother, God, really seen virtually, not virtually, seeing mother lively there as God, used to help her, worship her in this way, helping her, keeping her happy always, serving her, being obedient to her. So, in order to allow Chandramani time for her household duties, it now became a part of his daily routine to take the child on his lap, Akshay, and keep it amused in various ways. Though Gadadhar left the school, followed the dictate of his heart by engaging himself in these activities, besides helping Chandramani Devi in her household work, he became very fond of Akshay. The Ram Kumar has gone away, mother has died, Akshay's mother. So it was the duty of Chandramani Devi to look after that small child. So Gadadhar also became very fond of Akshay, his brother's motherless child, who very often kept him busy. In order to allow Chandra Devi time for her household duties, it now became a part of his daily routine to take the child on his lap and keep it amused in various ways. If he could amuse, if he could make the whole village, the men and women and the old and the young happy, couldn't he amuse this young boy, amuse that small child Akshay? Yeah. What was the luck of that small child to be growing on the lap of Gadadhar, amused by that Lord Vishnu himself, by Lord Shiva himself? What a great being he might be. So Gadadhar is taking care of the child too. So now you can understand, in the name of career building, in the name of getting something special, we neglect our families, we neglect our father and mother, your wife and children and other things. That should not be done. You can see, learn from Gadadhar at this small age, how well balanced he is ways and nature. He's taking care, very balanced way. His mother, the child, and his career, and his God realization, painting, sculpting, making images, friends, villages, everything so nicely is balancing. He's giving proper place to everything. So he became very fond of Akshay, his brother's motherless child, and very often kept him busy in order to allow Chandramani Devi for her household duties. It now became a part of his daily routine to take the child on his lap and keep it amused in various ways. So you can imagine how nice he used to play with the child and make it happy. He knew mimicking, he could do so many things, singing. So by that he used to keep the child amused. 3 years went by this way, and Gadadhar approached his 17th year, full grown youth now. 17, he's a teenager now. Through Ramkumar's exertions, the number of students in his Calcutta school, Ramkumar now is in Calcutta. He started his own school there, Sanskrit school. So through Ramakumar's exertions, the number of students in his Calcutta school had increased during this period, and he was now earning more than before. Although he spent more of his time in Calcutta, Ramkumar used to come once in a year to Kamarpukur for a few weeks to see how things were going on with his mother and brothers. So this time when he came, he was particularly worried to notice Gadadhar's indifference to any kind of regular study. So this time when Ramkumar came, he noticed he's just like a fatherly figure now. Elder brother is the father of the family because now father is not there. So now he saw the indifference to any kind of regular study. He made careful inquiries. So he too didn't jump into conclusion and scold or punish Gadadhar. So nicely, see the balanced way of dealing children. Even Ramkumar is adept in that. So he made careful inquiries as to how he spent his time. And after consulting his mother and Rameshwar, decided to take Gadadhar with him to Calcutta and keep him there. So that now he thought Gadadhar is not doing so, he's wasting his time, he's given up his study. So if take him to Calcutta and make him in charge of the school, and also he can also study there, can continue the study of Sanskrit and other things, mantras and doing pujas there, and also he can also earn some money. That was his idea. So Gadadhar, he decided, consulting his mother and brother and everybody there, to take Gadadhar to Calcutta and keep him there. He thought it advisable to do so because with the increase in the number of students, the management of his school had become difficult and he felt the need of an assistant. So it was settled that Gadadhar should go to Calcutta to assist him a little and at the same time study under him along with other pupils. Wonderful decision he took. So when this was put to Gadadhar, he did not raise the slightest objection because he knew that it meant helping his eldest brother, whom he respected like his father. He was obedient to his brother also like his own father, but now he's looking after his brother as his elder brother as his father. See, by studying an ideal brother, younger brother. So Ramakrishna, Gadadhar, he is the ideal son, ideal friend, ideal member of the village. Everything he's showing that ideal for us. Now, how to behave with the elder brother, younger brothers, look after the children in the house. He's showing how he's taking care of Akshay, amusing him, how he's looking after serving his mother, how he's behaving with the women folk of the village, how he's taking care of the villagers, how he's sharing their joy and this thing, always participating, trying to help them. So it's ideal, showing the ideal everywhere. Now the ideal brotherhood. How nicely he's treating, how nicely he's obeying his brother. Should know that all these lives of great people like Ramachandra and Ramakrishna are to be studied and inculcated, internalized. Why? Because see, I'll just give an example. When you read Ramayana, how nicely Ramachandra took care of his younger brothers, how much he loved Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna. So if you have to be an ideal, they tell you should be like Rama. When somebody, brothers in the house are leading a very good life, have very good relationship. Then they call, oh, they are living like Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, family of Ramachandra. So Ramachandra has shown how to behave with your brothers, how to be having that good relationship with your brother, serving him. Here, see, Ramakrishna is telling. He agreed when his brother told him. Why? Because he's obedient to his brother. He's now considering him. He's put his elder brother in his father's place. Elder brother is like my father. He's obedient to his. He was obedient to his father. He loved his father. Now he's obeying his elder brother Ram Kumar just like his father. But this is the way. He's showing the way. It so happened in India when that Ramayana serial started. That Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana serial, it started in somewhere in 1982 or something. We were all youths at the time. So we would be always waiting to see that Ramayana in the TV. We'd be glued to the TV until that Sunday morning, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock or whatever the time, I forget whether it is 9 to 10 or 10 to 11. The whole village or city or town would be empty all over India. No vehicles on the street. Why? All have gone to see Ramayana serial. How would the mothers welcome Ramachandra on the scene? When before the Rama's entry or that serial would start, mothers in the family used to light lamps in front of the TV. Both the sides, two lamps. They used to decorate with flowers. They used to light agarbattis. They used to keep fruits as offering to Ramachandra. And they used to do arati. Every day, every time the serial came, Rama would come there. So that was the intensity with which they used to watch Ramayana on the TV, reading Ramayana, everything that is there. But we have seen with our own eyes as youths what was happening at that time, 1982, 1983. So after that Ramayana serial was over, people weaved everywhere, all over India. Even now, recently during the coronavirus pandemic, the central government did the wonderful thing of broadcasting the Ramayana Mahabharata again. A lot of times, many a day. And people were glued inside because of the lockdown. And they used to forget everything, the fear, the anxiety of the pandemic by seeing this. Now, we have to note what happened then in after that the serial was over, maybe it took for 2 or 3 years, maybe in 1986 or so. I read a newspaper column where there was a arbitration fighting for the property in the house between 2 or 3 brothers. They went to the court. They were fighting for the property. Almost they came to blows, and so many other things happened somewhere in North India. And after watching the Rama serial and Rama's love towards the brother and the brother's love towards Rama, they became so changed. The transformation came over those brothers. They embraced each other. They felt apologetic. They came back and they took back the legal, the battle, the case. They took back. They started living happily together, the whole family. Then lived like what we call a joint family together. They had broken the house, they had broken the property. But after seeing that Ramayana, what a transformation. That's what will happen if we read all these lives. Our children, our people have to be given more and more of this Ramayana, Mahabharata, all our scriptures, Bhagavata, and the life of Ramakrishna. See how nicely Gadadhar is treating his elder brother. He's showing the respect to his elder brother just like his father, obeying him, not one word of disobedience. So, all these when we study and tell it to our children, not only our children, we have to adapt that. Then you can see the whole society changes. There'll be a transformation in our life. So we have to note all these things. Take a point. Just we should not read like a novel. We have to read all these things. Meditate on that. Take it into our character. Make it our own. Then we can change the society, change our own life. Automatically, the society will be changed. So we will make the study of this great master or Leela Prasanga. I think it will be on next Thursday, Friday, early in the morning at 6:30, and Indian Standard Time it will be 10 o'clock. So we will stop our conversation in this meditative mode, thinking of the ways and nature and the behavior of Gadadhar. How to look after that child, how used to amuse the villagers, how used to sing, how used to do the drama, singing and acting, helping mother, all those things we will meditate, and make our mind pure until we meet again. Read it again and again. Meditate on that. So let us be blessed by that. So until next Thursday, we will be in this meditative mode. So today evening, there will be puja class, discussion on puja, worship, the science of worship, significance of worship. So tomorrow there'll be Vivek Chudamani, the Krishna level of discrimination. Then Wednesday we have Bhagavad Gita discussion. Thursday, Friday in the morning, the same class will continue. Then Saturday we have again Bhagavad Gita class. Sunday, Monday, as usual, like this, we will have morning. Great Master Leela Prasanga continued. Until the next class, we will take leave by uttering the mantra. But before that, we have another 4 or 5 minutes. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts on the subject discussed today, you're free to ask questions and doubts. We have another 4 or 5 minutes. You can ask any questions or doubts if you have on the subject discussed today. I think if you don't have any questions or doubts, then I can end the session with a prayer. Okay. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.